Hello stylists, and welcome to our wig splicing tutorial. Today I'm going to show you a few different ways you can splice together two wigs for characters with two or more hair tones. If you plan to combine two different styles, you might want to check the description of each wig to see the types of features they have. Many styles are like this candy striper and have a small skin coin at the crown, and the wefts around it are sewn in a spiral. This magnum has the same thing, though the skin piece is a little bit bigger. This Rocky has a small skin coin, but the position is further back. The trend is pretty similar with other wigs with skin tops and parts. This Pippin has a large skin top in the front, this Lulu has a skin part down the middle, and this Wesley has a skin part on the side. If your wig has crimping instead of any skin pieces, then the weft layout is a bit different, with several rows going horizontally across the top. This is the Inigo. This is a Jaguar, and this is a Jareth. Though they're all a little bit different, it would still be easier to splice a Jaguar to a Jareth, or a Magnum to another Magnum, rather than combine a Jaguar to a Magnum. With this information in mind, my first demo is going to be splicing together two wigs so that there is a second color on top, but it is positioned high enough that I'll want to use two wigs that have a similar wefting layout. If you've got two wigs that are wefted differently, then it can be harder to determine how to cut out the right size shape from each one so that they match up. I'll be using a Jaguar and a Jareth for this demo. I'm going to mimic a pre-made character wig that I got off eBay many years ago. You can see where the orange and the brown are pretty easily. I'm going to mark these areas with a marker on my Jaguar and Jareth. You can also use chalk if you have a darker lace. The elastic straps down the back might not be symmetrical on each side, so use your best judgment on where to cut across the front, and just match it as best as possible on the second wig. Cut where you marked, and be careful to keep the hair out of the way as you go. I'm going to repeat this on the second wig, though if you don't want to do as much work, or if you are using two different types of wigs, you can also just stack the first piece on top of your second wig and stitch it in place. This will increase the amount of volume on top, which you may or may not want, so it's up to your preference. After cutting up your second wig, it is now time to piece them together. I'll just be using a whip stitch to sew them together. Be sure every weft that was cut is sewn to a corresponding weft. And that concludes one splicing method. My wig is ready to be cut and styled. The next example I'm going to show you is a bit easier, and it's for characters that just have an undercut in a different color or length. The splice is further down, so the types of wigs you use isn't as important. I'll be combining a Rocky and a Pippin to create a bowl cut style. For this splice, you just need to figure out where the bottom needs to start. Typically, it'll be a few rows higher than where it will show once the wig is finished, as the hair from the top will be overlapping where they are combined. If there is a different number of wefts in each wig, then eyeball them so that they will be as close of a match as possible. You can use the sideburn area or the elastic pieces as a reference. Cut horizontally across the back, being careful not to cut the hair. Match your top piece with your bottom piece and whip stitch the elastics together. Now I can cut the top piece for my bowl cut. Since it's been a popular request, I'll give you guys some tips for the styling on this one. Before cutting it, I used heat from a hairdryer to style the part on top. Then I used a combination of scissors and a hair shaping razor to trim off the length and thin it out so it doesn't look too choppy. You want to use heat from a hairdryer or a straightening iron to curl it down a bit. Alright, so for the last splicing example, I'm going to be doing a splice right down the middle of a wig. A frequent problem that might come up is that you'll need to cut through a skin piece in order to do this, as a lot of styles have a skin piece of some kind. I'm going to be demonstrating with two Chibis for this example, as it has a skin part right down the entire back. I'm just going to cut straight down the middle, being careful to cut as little of the fiber as possible. The skin pieces are made out of a plastic rather than a latex or rubber, so if I sew through it, it shouldn't tear as long as your stitching isn't too close to the edge. This first chibi I'm splicing together just has the edges right up against each other, so the size shouldn't be altered, but the stitching might be noticeable. You can make this less noticeable by using a thread that matches the plastic of the skin pieces. I'm going to splice together the other halves now, though this time I'm going to have the edges come to the inside. This creates a seam allowance, so it can't alter the sizing of the wig, though the end result makes the stitches much less noticeable. If you want to do this but are worried about the sizing, then rather than cutting straight down the center on each wig, you can cut slightly off-center on each one so you have some extra for the seam allowance. And that's just 3 popular methods to splicing wigs together. Hopefully this tutorial provided some good ideas and inspiration for your multicolored wig needs. Thanks for watching!